Today's little video I'm going to do around exporting and importing lists, particularly if you're first installing VS1. A number of these options and factors become very important. So there is a couple of golden rules to follow when we're doing this sort of thing. And the first one is you need to select the raw list in the first place. In other words, don't come to the main contacts tab here because you will get all mix of leads or contacts or suppliers. Go to the actual list that you're trying to import, like so. And then once you're in that list, simply hit export, this option. And it will immediately give you a template to export, CSV or Excel. Now, I recommend Excel because most people are used to it, but be aware Excel will modify your data if you're not careful. So just be aware of that. Simply hit export and it'll dump a list like so, which you can go straight into. Now, you need to import your lists if you're starting from scratch in a particular order, like so. So you have to import your employees first, then accounts, then your suppliers and vendors, customers and products. Now the reason you do them in that order, for argument's sake, products have preferred suppliers. So they need to have suppliers already in VS1 before you import the products. Products also have accounts. So what's the COGS going to? What's the income going to? So again, there's no good doing number 5 because you can't assign accounts to it and so on. So do it in this list. Okay. So when you export it, your list will come out like so. Now this is just a sample list. So when you export your employees, take your current data and in whatever format it is, and simply copy the field name as you see here. Now, in this sample spreadsheet you've been given, these are just examples. And the ID, this one, will be blank. So in your sample spreadsheet that you're seeing here, you simply copy in from your current system, matching the name. So the first name goes here, last name goes here, and so on. Male, female, and so on, all the way through. Now, fields not to touch. So if you want to run multiple departments, this is our first spreadsheet we're going to import. And by default, it comes with a default department. Later on, we can modify this, but right now, we'll just stick that column and keep it at department, at default, my apologies. Also with your custom fields. Now, you can have a whole bunch of these. We're just going to keep it simple at this point. So don't go modifying those. Keep it really simple. We just need to create a few logins for your employees on how they can get in and stuff like that, and the addresses. Now, VS1 uses Google validation for addresses. Now, this is very important for shipping and stuff like that. So make sure these addresses can be validated within Google. So what I mean by that is, if you import this, and I'll come over here, and we're looking at a employee card, like so. When you come down to the address field, if you simply start typing, Google will recognize where it is and its location. By selecting that, it populates everything automatically. You need to make sure on your spreadsheet that those addresses can be validated via Google. Now, a good way of doing that is you import your list and then simply come in and do what I've just done here. Simply check it and select it. Now, this is very important for matching when we're doing shipping, delivery, particularly customers and vendors. Okay, so let me bring this back. The important thing to understand here is an ID field. If you're looking to create a new record, and this is importing across the board. So if you want to create a new record, the ID must be blank. If it has an ID, then it's an existing record and you're trying to edit the record. Okay, so if an ID exists, you're editing the record. No ID, you're creating a new record. All right. A good example of that is that export we just did. Notice there are IDs in here. Now, those are existing records. So what that means is if you've already imported data, these names, in this case, they have no ID, so these records will be created. If I import this and want to alter it, I would re-export the list because the IDs will be attached. And then you can edit the record. If you remove these IDs, it's going to try and add a new record there. It's going to try and make new ones. You'll get conflicts because the names already exist. Okay, so we need an ID to edit. No ID is to add. Okay, let's go to the next one. Under your chart of accounts, and you can view these in either tree mode or balance mode, whichever way you want to look at it. It really doesn't matter. But there are a couple of very important things with this spreadsheet. So again, if you export this, you can do it there, and you would simply import it here. Now, when you look at the spreadsheet, this will have IDs already associated. VS1 comes with a default set of accounts. So please don't alter these IDs. Don't alter these accounts. Don't delete them, remove them. They are a set of default accounts. Talk with your project manager if you want to modify these, but we need these accounts in VS1 for the system to work. If you start taking these out, you're going to get issues in VS1. So leave all of those there. Start from there, moving down. And again, just copy it into the fields you need. So take your existing data and copy it into those fields. Now, don't alter the tax codes. If you want to alter the tax codes, no problem, but we need to get the tax code you want into VS1 first. Otherwise, if you alter the name of the tax code here and it doesn't exist in VS1, it'll fail. It won't know where to go, all right? So for now, we keep it at default. We modify the tax codes once you're in VS1, and then we can export the list, adjust, and re-import it back in. Very, very simple. So don't alter the tax codes. Most are set up already for you. Also, when you're looking at these, you can put in all your different levels and what you want to run it with. Do not put in any balances at this point. Try to keep them blank and just set them to true. Okay, so don't disable any of the current accounts and don't alter any of the tax codes. That's cool. All right, let's go to the next one. So the next one you're going to bring in is your supplier list. Okay, so your vendors. And again, same rule with the ID. Blank will add. If they have an existing ID, they will show here. So if it has an ID, you're editing the record. Blank, you're adding the record. So the main thing with your supplier list is you're just looking to get the values in. Ignore these balance columns. Ignore those. Balances come from transactions. Your bookkeeper or accountant will have a minor heart attack if you start entering values there with no transactions behind it. Accountants love that sort of stuff. So yeah, let's not give them too many coronary effects. So don't do that. Again, same with the address information. Please keep in mind that when you're looking at your supplier or vendor list, if we jump into VS1, we have the same address options. So we'll come down to the address. Again, just start typing. It'll recognize it, it'll validate it. Keep in mind, with your vendors and suppliers, you've got multiple addresses. So you have a billing address and a shipping address. They can be different, okay? So keep that in mind. When you're looking at your spreadsheet, you'll see the multiple addresses there, all right? So keep those in mind. Again, tax codes, don't touch them for now. PT stands for purchase tax. Try to keep those as the defaults. And again, we will come back and modify those if we need to. Typically though, we keep them as they are and don't modify them. Okay, next one. Customers. Again, IDs, blank is add. If it's got an existing ID, it will edit. So Again, same as what we did with suppliers, ignore these balances. Those three there. Again, try not to kill your accountant, that'd be awesome. Do set their credit limits though, all right? Ignore SO balance for now. Simply check all their emails, their basic data, copy this from your existing records, paste it in like so. Again, validate the addresses, same as what you've got with your suppliers. Don't touch your tax codes, do add in here. Ignore the employee number. This will come back to lead generation and lead sources and all those sorts of things. We'll talk about those ones later on. Don't create new source. Sources, where did this lead, where did this customer come from? Use the defaults for now. We need to fill those fields in before you start adding them to your spreadsheet and so on. Fairly simple, very similar concept though. All right, let's go to the next one. Product list. All right, I'll take out the ID, same again. Ignore, with your product list, ignore these quantities. Again, they need a transaction behind them to validate. You can't just import a value here. Doesn't work. Set your cost, X and Inc. Fill in all those fields. Ignore serial numbers. This is what we call a one-to-many record. So we have to come back and modify this at some point. And let's go to the right now. And here, these accounts must match your chart of accounts. The one you imported second, you have to have those accounts existing from that accounts import before you add them here. If they don't already exist in VS1, you'll get a fail. Same for suppliers. They need to exist. They need to be in VS1 automatically. If that name doesn't exist, you will get a fail, all right? Because VS1 won't know what to do with it. Right, let's keep going. Tax codes again, similar concept. Now, there are three types of inventory type. There is inventory, which is where you track quantity of stock. So you have a COGS account, an income account, and an asset account for inventory. So you're tracking stock levels. Non-inventory doesn't track stock. You just have a COGS account and a sales account. There is no inventory tracked with COGS, with non-inventory type accounts. Now, typically, non-inventory is labor based. In other words, you have a cost of the labor and you have a sell price. And then you have other, which is purely just income. What income did we generate from those things? So other is income. But again, talk with your project manager if you're a little bit unsure about that, but those are your main values. So when you look in VS1, if we come to the inventory and your product list, this one, and let's look at something that we're going to track stock with. It has, in this case, you've got a sales account, a COGS account, and an inventory account. That's because we're tracking stock, these guys here. These again are transaction based, so keep in mind that they need to be there. All right. Let's come back here. Again, you can set whether serial numbers tracking is true or not. Now, the important one to wrap your head around, the one that can be debatable, is what we call subgroups. So what I mean by that is, if you look at, again, back at, let's say, our apples, we're fitting it under fruit and pom as a subgroup. So I can then look up all of the fruit that I have in my product list as a group. I can filter on that group. So bananas would come up as well. Now, if you're in VS1 and you can't see any of those options, you can't see them in your product list, simply hit the red 3 dots here and turn them on. Whatever fields you want to activate, you can turn them on here and they will show up on your list as you adjust them. So subgroups 1, 2, and 3. You can also change the label of them, change the name, whatever you choose. But the important piece here, if we go back to our spreadsheet, is try to decide what subgroups you want. Now, keep in mind, importing these doesn't have to be perfect. You just need progress. So don't try to make the whole thing perfect. Just go aim for progress. That's what you're after. Again, it doesn't have to be absolutely spot on, just progress. That's what we're aiming for. Now, don't forget your supplier code for that product. Try to add that. For now, ignore extra cell weights and volumes. This will come back at a later stage and deal with that because it has a lot to do with shipping and how that goes out the door. So let me go back here. So when you're looking at any of your lists, remember you can export and import from here. You simply hit your toggles and import the spreadsheet that you just made. Simple as that. It really is that simple. Keep in mind when you're looking at your spreadsheets, the key is no ID adds. If it has an ID, you're editing. And there you go. I hope that made sense. Again, if there are any issues, simply stop the video, go back, watch a section, pause, and move on from there. Hope that made sense.